When your child is learning to read, there are foundational skills that your child will need to be successful. Learning to read can feel very daunting and challenging to new readers. It is a long process that takes a lot of very specific and targeted instruction. When you provide your child with targeted instruction, reading can feel less daunting and challenging. I'm going to identify the 6 syllable types that your child should be able to read and write to become fluent readers and writers. Reading and writing are intertwined. Research has found that if your child can use the syllable type when encoding, which is spelling, then they can recognize and use it during decoding, which is reading. Now let's talk about what are the 6 syllable types. So the first one is going to be an open syllable. An open syllable is when the vowel is not followed by a consonant. So for example, he, she, and go. So what's happening is our word is ending in that vowel and it is making it say its long sound. So you can do this with real words, pretend words, it doesn't really matter. Now the next one is a closed syllable. Now closed syllables are what are going to be like your consonant, vowel, consonant words. So for example, bat, hat, cat, things like that. You can also have digraphs obviously in the beginning like that, when. So a closed syllable is when a vowel is followed or closed in by a consonant so that the vowel will say its short sound. The next one is going to be blends and digraphs. A digraph are 2 letters that stick together and say one sound. So for example, you would have TH, SH, PH, and CH, just to name a few. Now blends are going to be 2 letters that stick together and say their individual sounds. Now it's very important because students will get those 2 confused just because they are still 2 letters, but the biggest thing for them to remember is that the digraphs are only going to say one sound and it's usually a new sound. And then the blends are just going to be 2 letters that are still saying their sounds, but we can blend them together to make our reading or writing a little bit faster. So for example, a blend would be SN, SL, TR, FR, ST. Usually we'll call them like L blends, S blends, R blends, T blends. So for example, you would say like SN, right? That would be a blend. Next, we're going to talk vowel controlled E or VCE. Many people like to call this syllable type silent E. Some people will call it magic E. However you want to call it, just as long as it's consistent. So with this, the E is silent and it makes the vowel say its long sound. So for example, we might have rake, ripe, and mute. An important rule to remember is that the E will not jump over more than one consonant. Now, there are actually 7 jobs for E, but one of our syllable types that we talk about is silent E, and it's important for them to understand that that E can make the vowel say its long sound as long as there is only one consonant between the E and the vowel. Next, we'll talk R-controlled vowels. So this is when a vowel is immediately followed by R so that the vowel can no longer be pronounced as a long or short sound. So for example, you have AR, ER, UR, IR, and OR. Next, we have vowel teams or diphthongs. Now, these are 2 different things. There are people that kind of dispute like which one is which, but this is how I explain it to my students. A vowel team is when you have 2 vowels that work together to make one sound. Now, generally in vowel teams, it will be that first vowel sound. So like for example, in EA, it'll say E, but EA can say 3 sounds. It can say E, and A. So just make sure that you're not trying to create different silly sayings because they don't always work out to be true. So for an example of a vowel team, you might have the word see, oat, rain, snow, so EA, OA, AI, OW, and IE. A diphthong is when the speaker's tongue changes position while the sound is being pronounced. So again, OW can say 2 different sounds. When you're teaching vowel teams and diphthongs, if you have something like OW where it's going to say 2 different sounds, or EA where it's going to say 3 different sounds, I teach them one at a time, and I will generally teach them when it's saying its name. So for example, EA, it's saying E, OW, it's saying O. Teach that first, have them read and write with those patterns, and then introduce them to the next one, right? So now we're like, okay, we learned that EA can say E. In some instances, based on the origin of the word, it can say it can say A. But for a diphthong, for example, OW can also say ow. So if you're looking at your mouth and how you say ow versus O. It's very different. You're changing your tongue position while you're saying the sound. So for example, OW says ow, OI says oi, EW says oo, and OY says oi. So like plow, coin, view, and boy. Now I always teach vowel teams first, and then we'll teach diphthongs. And the very last one that we have is consonant LE. This is a final syllable with one consonant followed by L and silent E. For example, you might have stumble, sniffle, fiddle, cradle, turtle. Now consonant LE is a more complex syllable type just because you can find other syllable types within consonant LE words. Now these are the way that I teach the syllable types to my students. Those are like the rules, you could say, or the patterns that I tell them is how we know what a vowel team is, what a digraph is. But there are also many exceptions to these rules, and the exceptions to the rules are going to be taught differently. However, that is a video for another day. But when your child masters identifying using these syllable types, they can read any word they come across. This is what all of the words in the English language, for the most part, will have. So if they can read those 6 syllable types, they're going to be able to read all kinds of multisyllabic words and find those patterns, and it will just make them better readers if they know these patterns. And I know that teaching these syllable types can help your child to succeed. I have first graders that can read multisyllabic words with these syllable types. So when your child has the key to mastery, they gain the confidence that comes with it. To help your child succeed in reading and spelling with these syllable types, you need to know your child's current abilities. If you're unaware of where your child is at in these abilities, you can check out my syllable type assessments, I'll link that below, which will help you to identify where to start. I hope that I have helped you gain the confidence and knowledge that you need to help your child become the fluent reader that I know that they can become. I hope this information was helpful, and we'll see you next time.